Um, Good morning, everybody. My name is Rachel Deaton. I'm the Director of Training and Public Policy at the Autism Society of Indiana. My main qualification for this job is that I have a son who is 18 with autism. So I live autism, I breathe autism. I learned everything I possibly can about autism. I'm continuing to learn, and my son recently turned 18, so I know what it's like to transfer. And I'm learning every day how it is to transfer from childhood to adulthood right now. I'm actually living this. So I'm going to start sharing my screen again. We ask that you type any questions you have during the presentation in the chat. I will stop and ask, and Chris will let me know what questions they are. And then we will have time for a Q&A at the end to answer very specific questions to what your situations might be. I will want to just do a quick disclaimer. There we go. That this material is and this presentation has been prepared by the Autism Society and is, to the best of our knowledge, general background information, and it is given in summary form, but is current at the date of the presentation with what we have today. So some of the basic numbers about autism is that there's 1 in 54 individuals in the United States diagnosed with autism. Boys are 5 times more likely to be affected than girls, and girls that are diagnosed seem to have more significant symptoms of autism. There are 128 million people worldwide on the autism spectrum, and it is the fastest growing developmental disability with a 10 to 17% annual growth rate. I will say that these numbers are from 2018-19 from the CDC. The CDC has not released new numbers since then, of course, because of the pandemic. When we're talking about autism and when we're defining it, it's really characterized by 3 different things: deficits in communication, deficits in social skills, and unusual behaviors. The unusual behaviors could be such things as flapping, stimming, tiptoe walking, those types of things. And really, what is autism? Autism is a neurological disorder. It is not a mental health disorder. It is not, it spans the entire life of an individual, and there's no known cure or cause of autism. So really today we're going to talk about some things and hit on some topics about what are the challenges for adults on the autism spectrum. A difficulty with obtaining a diagnosis, lack of services, unemployment, lack of independence, difficulty with financial assistance, and family support dwindles. We're going to talk about each of these during this presentation and hit on them as we go through. And really, we're also going to really touch a little bit on the social challenges for adults with autism. They don't fit in. They have a lot of difficulty seeing things from other person's perspectives. They have few friends and romantic relationships. They have difficulty with the unstructured day. So they've gone from a school day for 12 years where it's very structured. They know what to expect. They know what to happen next, to just really going home and not having a lot of opportunities. And really, daily living tasks do not come naturally to individuals on the spectrum. So they struggle with daily tasks that have been prompted throughout most of their lives. So the first thing we're going to talk about is some life skills hurdles for adults with autism. One is access to health and safety programs to help them through their lives. As adults, as children with autism grow into adults, the doctors that they see, the therapists they see, the practitioners that help them start to be limited because there's less and less adult doctors and therapists that work with adults on the spectrum. Also, they have less safety with, like, there's not people helping to monitor if they cross the road safely. There's not people there to help remind them of the safety that they have to have. There's a lack of career path and employment opportunities for individuals on the spectrum. And individuals on the spectrum as adults have to start advocating for themselves. And this is extremely hard because their parents have often advocated for them throughout their lifetime. And so learning how to self-advocate is a challenge. Um, Again, they're not in school, so they have limited peer relationships, socialization, and social communication. This has really been um, significant during COVID, and a lot of the things that were around before COVID, which really weren't a lot of programming, has been even more limited because of the pandemic, and they haven't started coming back. Um, Community participation and transportation. Again, public, oh, I don't know, public transportation is really not available in a lot of rural Indiana towns. And so individuals on the spectrum that live in rural Indiana or towns without a bus system struggle to get from place to place. And if they do have that, then they have to learn how to do that, which could be complicated navigating a bus system. And they don't have home living skills. So families have often, when children with autism are growing up, focus on getting through the day. They focus on how to survive the problems that come up day to day with school life. And then when they hit adulthood and they need to start thinking about living independently, they are ill prepared for that. And it takes a long time to get prepared for that. That could be, cooking food using kitchen appliances, using an oven or a microwave appropriately. Can they cut their food? Or are they knife safe? Is knives too dangerous for them? Can they medicate themselves? Those are all questions. Can they monitor their schedules? Can they wake up in time to get where they need to be to do what they need to do? Those types of home livings. And there's really just a difficulty of getting a diagnosis in adulthood. If you were not diagnosed prior to the age of 18, it is really difficult to find providers that will diagnose you. This is because adults are really good at hiding symptoms. If you've made it to adulthood and not been diagnosed with autism, but you think you might have autism, you've probably been diagnosed with another diagnosis that you've masked the autism. You probably might have ADHD, anxiety, depression, some other diagnoses, some sensory processing disorders. And you've been diagnosed with those and gotten help with those, but the autism might have been the key factor there. And if you wait to adulthood to get diagnosed, there's just not very many physicians that will diagnose you. And also, there's a lack of services available if you're diagnosed after the age of 22. Adults with autism have higher rates of co-occurring conditions such as anxiety, depression than their peers. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the 22-year age limit there in just a second. Also, there's just a lack of supports from transition to adulthood. In any state, really, in the United States, there's just, without improved supports, adolescents with mental, behavior, and other developmental disabilities are likely to disengage and experience health gaps as they enter adulthood, which is really bad for health and longevity. What we're saying here is that individuals who enter into adulthood, they don't have the same supports they had as children. And when those supports go away quickly, they really might just sit on the couch and not do anything. And that's really bad for their mental health and their physical health. So we're also going to talk about some financial planning options for individuals who are adults on the spectrum. One is an ABLE account. And I know that there's going to be questions about this again. So these are where the questions start to come up. So if you type your questions in the chat box again, we will be able to answer them about these, or we can answer more questions at the end of the presentation. The first is an ABLE account. This is a new account where you can invest money and it helps individuals save money while preserving their SSI and Medicaid. An ABLE account does not affect your assets with having SSI. It is not included in the $2,000 of assets you can have with SSI. An ABLE account is kind of like an investment account. You can do it with financial planners, or you can do it through the state on your own with a small nominal fee, yearly fee. In that, you can save up to a certain amount. I think it's like $50,000. It might be more than that now. That does not affect your SSI. And this money can be spent on more lenient than a special needs trust. So you can, save for fun things like cable, internet. You can use it for going on a trip or buying DVDs or video games, those types of things. And then you have a special needs trust, which is used to provide financial assets for someone with a disability. They can actually have two different types. They could have one that's funded by family members or one funded by themselves. And so let's say an individual's working and they take their money and they put it immediately into a special needs trust. Um, that's money that they can keep, but it's usually helped to pay for things that are life, like you need to live. So it'd be able to pay for rent. It'd be able to pay for things that you need for your disability. It could be for electric and heat and basic life necessities. It's not for the fun things in life. Chris, have there been any comments about this or questions so far?
Not so far.
Okay. So in Indiana, some of the assistance available is SSI. That's Social Security and income. That's monthly payments to adults and children with a disability or blindness who have income and resources below specified amounts. That's the $2,000 amount that we were talking about earlier and that I mentioned. Social Security income is not something that you've contributed to. It's something that you get because of your disability. Then there's SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance Benefits. These benefits are paid if the individual has worked long enough and paid Social Security taxes on the earnings. So this is like you get a pay stub and you have Social Security withdrawal from that. This is this type of money. This is money you've worked so many hours and you've contributed for so many years, and then something's happened and you've become disabled, or you've worked and your autism has gotten so worse that you need to apply for SSDI. You can apply for that. And then there's waiver funds provided by the Bureau of Developmental Disabilities. This includes the Family Support Waiver, FSW, and the Community Integration and Habilitation Waiver. We did have a presentation on how to apply for the Family Supports Waiver that is on the library's YouTube channel. And then you can get Medicaid. Medicaid is a federal and state program which helps with healthcare costs for some individuals with limited income and resources. Now, the key here in Indiana about adults on the spectrum is the adult qualification for services in Indiana is, in Indiana at the age of 18, qualification for the waivers and Medicaid with the waiver is solely based on qualifying for Social Security income. So if you want to keep a waiver, if you already had one, and the Medicaid that comes along with it, or if you want to get on the waivers, you have to qualify for Social Security to get those and keep those as an adult. So when my son turned 18, we have applied for Social Security. We have to work through the process. It is a very difficult process, and it takes, most people get denied at the first option. But this is solely because Indiana is a 1634 state. They get more funding from the federal government if they follow this guideline. Chris, is there a question in the chat now?
No, that I just put in a link to the library's YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I just saw it pop up. So the next thing we're going to talk about is guardianship and guardianship options for individuals on the spectrum or special needs. The first one is guardianship. So I don't know why it keeps jumping so fast. I'm not even touching it. Guardianship is a legal proceeding to appoint a person responsible to the court to take over for an incapacitated individual or minor and manage their property or estate. So when my son was going to turn 18, about 3 months before that, we hired a lawyer. We submitted paperwork to our doctors and physicians for my son's therapy, doctors, everybody that is involved with my son. And we had letters written about them saying that he was unable to manage his own decision-making process, his medical decisions, his financial decisions, and his estate. And then our lawyer, submitted paperwork that we wanted to become guardians for our son. And then we had to go in front of a judge and talk about Luke and his abilities and capabilities and what we were willing to do for him. And then the judge granted us guardianship. This is a really big, important task. If you want to get guardianship for your child or an adult with autism, you have to know that they are not able to make those decisions in an appropriate manner for themselves, and you have to prove that. We also have to go back every 2 years and say that we are managing his estate and his livelihood in the best way possible. I will say that if they do have assets before you apply for guardianship that are nominal, then you will also have to start reporting accounting information for that also. A second option that's just recently been added, probably in the last 5 or 6 years in Indiana, is supported decision making. So this is the higher functioning, which I'm saying only for lack of a better term, individual who can make the decisions on their own. They have a supported decision-making team, and it creates supporters that help with understanding information, options, responsibilities, and consequences for the decisions. So let's say an individual wants to move into an apartment with a roommate. They might really want to discuss all the options, getting along with the roommate, the cost, how they will split the cost. Will there be staff involved that come into the apartment and help them? They really will go over, the supported decision-making team will go over all those options, the decisions and the consequences of the decisions, and can they pay for that? And then the individual will make the decision on their own at the end. And then there's power of attorney. A power of attorney allows certain aspects to be appointed to an individual. So let's say you want to get power of attorney for your son, you might get it, or daughter, to make medical decisions or be able to talk to doctors or to help with financial decisions. This is a common practice for people who are going to college. And you know, if your child went to college and they're over the age of 18, and they got hurt at college, the college can't really tell you that your child's hurt, or wouldn't be able to notify you if of medical emergencies if you weren't a power of attorney or noted in that as a person to contact, or make financial decisions and help them with their finances after the age of 18. Some of the employment challenges that come along with this are 90% of adults are unemployed. 90% of adults are unemployed on the autism spectrum. 35% of young adults ages 19 to 23 with autism have never been employed or continued their education. So when they leave the school systems, they literally go home and sit on a couch and do nothing. That to me is staggering. That's why there's so many other coexisting conditions that really come along when they leave the school system, because there's just not any activities or programming for them to have. And they really just go home and sit on the couch. There's a lack of accommodations and routine. There's lack of transportation. You know, they might not be able to get to a job or programming. And then there's financial constraints to maintain benefits. So if they have a job that they really love, they really can't ever have over $2,000 in assets or in their bank account. So they have to have somebody help them manage that and keep the money lower so they can keep their Social Security, their insurance, and other options. So then we want to talk about some employment programs that are offered for individuals that have autism and are adults. One is vocational rehabilitation. Voc Rehab is what it's called by most people. It helps individuals with disabilities achieve their employment goals. Services include exploring interests and skills, helping find a first job, providing assistant technology, job coaching. It could be re-entry into employment. So let's say that you had lost your job and you had something happen and you could not work there anymore, and then you needed to re-entry the workforce. That would be that. And services needed for career advancement. So let's say you have a low-level job and you want to apply for something that's higher, you might need help with advocating for yourself, asking for accommodations, and applying for a promotion. Another program is Launch into Life. This is offered through us at the Autism Society of Indiana. It's really meant for the ages 16 to 23, and it addresses shortcomings caused by lack of systems in place for transition into adulthood. So this is where we talk about managing a checkbook or living with a roommate. We talk about other job skills besides just college or continuing education and what you can do. And then in Indiana, we absolutely have something that is amazing here. We have the Erskine Green Training Institute. It's run by the ARC of Indiana. It is in Muncie, Indiana, and it provides vocational training for a variety of jobs in hotel, food service, and healthcare supports while being fully immersed in a hotel setting. So it is a live-in situation. You might go visit and try some of the jobs they have available to learn, and then you apply to the Erskine Green Training Institute. And then if you get accepted, you move into the hotel during that program. You learn independence. They have nursing staff. They have staff that's on call all the time, but you have to learn your independence, how to take care of yourself. You have to manage your own medications. You have to be able to show up at work on time and be ready to work. This is an excellent opportunity for individuals in Indiana. There's nothing like this anywhere else in the United States. I would highly recommend this if you are able to complete this program. And then in Indiana, we have Centers for Independent Living. They're called CILs, and a Center for Independent Living promotes independent living to empower people with disabilities. And they provide services that include peer counseling, information and referrals, individual and system advocacy. They teach individuals how to advocate for themselves and how to advocate through like walking through Social Security or Medicaid. They teach independent skills training, services that help facilitate transitions from nursing homes or institutions, which they were talking about like group homes, or those who might actually be thinking that they might go into a group home. It's a better option for them to stay out. So they're trying to teach skills that independent living will be successful and that you will stay out of group homes, nursing homes, or state facilities. If you are interested in doing that, you would look up Centers for Independent Living on the FSSA site within Indiana. There are some college opportunities too, and I always want to say that college is not for everyone, but it is for some people, right? So each college offers a disability service, the accommodations and additional resources at any college, but they vary by quality and by institution and cost. So for example, the BUILD program at the University of Indianapolis is for individuals diagnosed with a disability, but they have been admitted into the University of Indianapolis, and they can complete higher education. The services include one-on-one tutoring, specialized courses, social groups, and testing accommodations, but there is an additional cost for that. Ball State has an excellent disability assistance program that is very good, that helps out a lot too. And then in Indiana, we have Ancilla College, which is now part of Marion College, and they have an APAC program. And this is a nominal fee. It's not very much. I think it's like $500 per semester, or it was last year, fee-based program, and it helps students build academic, independent, and social skills and workplace skills. This program has been rated in the top 50 higher education autism programs in the United States. But, you know, college isn't for everyone. So then what is? You could get an industry recognized certificate, which is, you know, you take some classes online and then you take an exam and you get certificates. This is very prevalent in the IT industry, which could be good for individuals on the spectrum who are overwhelmed by an office situation and want to work from home. That's a great option. You can get certificates for CNA classes, phlebotomy, associate degrees for things like radiology technicians. And Ivy Tech has multiple programs throughout the state. I have done trainings for the Ivy Tech professors. And you could do culinary skills, you could do computer skills, you could do welding, you could do, depending on the area you live in the state, there's different programming offered. And so I really think that's a great, you know, alternative to a four-year college degree. You're also talking about what is the growing industries in Indiana. Really, it's informational technology and life science and healthcare. Those are the top growing industries in Indiana currently. And for our family, some of the things that have been really helpful are technology and aids. So my son has a smartwatch, an Apple Watch actually, and we use that to text him in social situations when he might be acting inappropriately or we need him to move on from a topic he's been stuck on. We also put schedules and alarms, notes, and reminders on his Apple Watch. So it vibrates and says, you know, it's time to, in 5 minutes, we're going to go to school. In 15 minutes, we're going to lunch with friends. We add in extra things that happen throughout the day that might be out of the ordinary. If we're going to go to dinner with friends that we don't usually do every week, we would add that into his schedules and notes so he knows and is reminded of that and doesn't get anxious when we change the daily schedules. We also use social picture charts and social reminders. We use the calendar and the notes in the calendar a lot on his Apple Watch. Phones are really great for that too. And we really just use a lot of printed schedules for daily routines and expectations because his morning routine, his afternoon routine, they're not rote. They don't come naturally to him to memorize what he's doing. He just doesn't do the same thing every morning. He has to be reminded of the steps. So we had, when he was younger, we did picture charts. Now we really focus on words. So it might be, you know, get out of bed, go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, wash your face, brush your hair, get dressed. Make sure you check the weather. Is it hot or cold? To dress appropriately. Make sure you have socks and shoes on. Then it might go downstairs, have breakfast, and then watch TV, and then be ready to leave by 7:20 to go to school and therapy. So those are the types of things that can really help an individual on the spectrum get through the day.